Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Simon Scott Assembly Hall as the Indiana Hoosiers open up the 2018-19 basketball season. They welcomed in the University of Southern Indiana Eagles, a game that Indiana easily wins here tonight, 96-62. I'm joined by Drew Davis from Peaks.com. They won with a big margin, but Archie was not particularly pleased with the offense in the first half, the ball sharing, and it got better in the second half, but even the shooting wasn't great in the first half.
Yeah, this is still like the early stages for Indiana offensively, The way Archie likes to do things, he likes to kind of, put the basics of the offense in, where guys are just kind of learning the natural, movements and cuts of the offense, so that becomes engraved in their head before they advance into, the more advanced version of what they like to do. I think that's personally, I think that's a good idea because it really hammers home the basics. And as you know, you can't build up until you have a solid foundation. And he's made some valid points about the offense of the first half. It was too stagnant at times, but I think a big difference you're going to see over the next few weeks and as we progress in December and even towards January, you're going to see the offense more geared to getting specific players the ball in certain spots. Like tonight, it was more they were just kind of running the offense, and wherever the open shot was, that was where they're going to take it. It wasn't really targeted to set up Jawan or set up Romeo. But I think that's going to change over the next 2 months, especially as they get more advanced in their offense and their principles and their rules of that. And it'll be interesting to see how they do as they kind of evolve.
Yeah, we saw a lot of combinations out there tonight because it's an exhibition and you can do that. Coach Miller used that to his full advantage of running a lot of different sets in there. A lot of guys are getting to play, but the most amazing thing is these freshmen are really stepping up. Demezy Anderson led the scoring tonight. He had 14 points. He had 4 shots from behind the arc. So there's a shooter for you. Indiana will shoot 67% in the second half from behind the stripe, 8 of 12. That's a pretty good line, especially for this team we think about last year. Couldn't hit water if they fell out of a boat from behind the arc. But this year, maybe a different story.
I know. I don't think this team will be a great three-point shooting team. As Archie said on his radio show the other night, he thinks this team is more of a team that aspires to get into the lane and get fouled and go to the charity stripe more than they are a team that's looking to shoot three-pointers. Obviously, I don't want to make too much of tonight's shooting performance. I mean, it was obviously a great showing. Demezy hit some shots. Evan hit some shots. Even Zach McRoberts started to find his range, which that was encouraging to me because last year he was a guy that really didn't shoot the ball that much at all. So it was interesting to see him shoot it at least a couple times, and maybe if he's able to do that a little bit here and there throughout the season, it'll keep defenses honest, and they won't be able to kind of key on some of those other guys and really sag off of him. So that'll be big for this team if he's able to knock down some shots here and there. I'm not necessarily on a consistent basis, just enough to keep the defense honest.
Yeah, they had 6 players in double figures tonight, a very, very balanced group. The scoring went from 10 points to 14, so that's a tight group, 13, 12, and 11. Demezy Anderson, as I said, leads the scores, but a lot of freshmen. Rob Finney getting some invaluable minutes, while Devontae Green is banged up a little bit, just resting up, but he's been starting and playing the point, and he had 13 points tonight. Romeo, 13 points, but he did not have a very good shooting night. No. But this is the thing about Romeo. He did not shoot the ball well at all, but he still scores. And that's very, very important. And that's something that Romeo can do that I think people are going to see more of and understand. That's one of the things that makes him special. Yeah,
I was talking to Rodney Watson, USI's head coach, after the game, and I think he kind of touched on something you were saying there where, Romeo obviously didn't have his A game tonight, but like Rodney said, Romeo's the type of player that finds other ways to impact the game, even if he's not scoring well. I think back to a game in the sectional final against Floyd Central where Coach Sturgeon kind of threw a bunch of different looks at him and kind of he basically took the ability to score a bunch of points away from Romeo, and Romeo kind of looked at it like he didn't care. He was going to do whatever it took to win, got his teammates involved. And another thing about him that I think is very underrated is his willingness to crash the glass. A lot of star players, they don't want to get in there and mix it up on the glass, do the dirty work. That's never been an issue for that kid, and I've always noticed that. You even see that tonight when Deron Davis is slow getting down the floor. It looks like it's going to be an offensive rebound. Here comes Romeo from the wing, and he grabs it, tips it up a couple times, and comes away with the rebound. And I think Romeo Langford is much more than just a highlight guy that you're going to see on YouTube. I think he's a guy that he plays the game really well all the way around. And I think there's something to be said for that.
Yeah, and a lot of something else. I saw him on the ground at least probably 4 times tonight,
Right.
diving for balls. So if you're questioning his defense, it's not from a lack of effort, I promise you. He was on the floor, he was diving, he was doing whatever it took to get the job done. Juwan Morgan, a nice night for him, 12 points, 5 of 7 shooting. Justin Smith, 4 of 8, 1 of 1 from behind the three-point line. And Evan Pfitzner, he knocks down a couple of three-pointers as well, 10 points for him tonight. A lot of different parts they're meshing in there together. And like I said, we saw a lot of combinations. As the season progresses, that's going to go away, and there's going to be a rotation that comes in. But right now, I don't know if he's trying to find that rotation or if he's just playing with it.
Well, I think something to be said, he did say he was going to have a lot of different combinations out here tonight. Part of that is Brace, Devontae, Jerome, they're all on the bench in street clothes, so you don't have those 3 guys, so obviously you're going to have to mix up things and do some different stuff. But I think another thing that people kind of undervalue is when you're going through these types of games, they don't really mean anything. You're trying to find guys that might excel in a specific matchup. USI throws something out there, and you're kind of thinking in the back of your head of your Archie Miller. Okay, if we see this type of look in the season, let's get maybe player A out there and see how he does, so we can have that in our back pocket if that is needed. Whenever they play a specific team, and I just think that's something that is going to help this Indiana team a lot down the road. You look at a guy like Deron Davis. He's going to be a guy that really is reliant on matchups. You look at a guy like Evan Pfitzner. You think about once you get into Big Ten play, he may have an even bigger role than he does in non-conference. The tempo will be different. There's not many skilled foremen like that in the Big Ten, honestly. And I think that's something where Evan will really be able to take advantage of that, especially during conference play.
Yeah, he brings a lot to the table. He's a big guy, but he's a 42% three-point shooter, so he brings a lot of headaches to the opposing defenses. Deron Davis, he's got a long road to go. He's recovering from the Achilles injury, one of the worst injuries, if not the worst injuries in all of sports. But you can tell he's just still lumbering up and down the floor, and it's going to take him a long time to get his conditioning back, and he's going to be a situational player. I mean, like last year, he did a marvelous job on Marvin Bagley III. Mm-hmm. I can see that being a situation for him this year, but he's got to get that conditioning before he can last in there with those guys.
Yeah, and another thing he needs is he kind of lacks his explosion. Deron wasn't by any means an explosive player before the injury, but he's still kind of lacking that explosion when he's getting up and down the court. There's a time where I saw he could have contested a shot tonight, but he didn't really have the lift to get up and do that. It's just that injury is so brutal. You look what it did to Kobe Bryant at the end of his career. Basically shaved a couple years off his career, forced him to retire. And it's going to take time for Deron. Basically, if I'm Archie Miller, the way I'm looking at it is, what can I do to get this guy ready for Big Ten play? This non-conference is almost just a preview and a way to kind of just work him back and get him back into game shape, if you ask me.
Absolutely. The next game coming up is November 6th against Chicago State, and the Hoosiers will be back in action then. The defense is obviously well ahead of the offense.